Mr. President, thank you. I want to first follow up on Jeff's question because the person you were standing next to, whether you know who he is or not, tested positive for coronavirus. Dr. Fauci said this morning, if you stand next to somebody who tested positive, you should self-isolate and get a test. You say your White House doctor is telling you something different. Who should Americans listen to? And my second question
I think they have to listen to their doctors. And I think they shouldn't be jumping to get the test unless it's necessary. But I think they have to listen to their doctors. And I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen the picture. Somebody said there's a picture with somebody taking a picture with me, but I haven't seen it.
Well, doctors have
but
said
I
you
can
might
tell
have it even if you don't have symptoms. Are
Well,
you being selfish by not getting tested and potentially
Well, I
exposing?
didn't say I wasn't going to be tested.
Are you going to be?
Most likely, yeah, most
When do
likely.
you think
Not for
that'll
that reason,
happen?
but because I think I will do it anyway.
Will you let us know
Fairly
the
soon.
results?
We're working on that. We're working out a schedule.
My second question, Mr.
You
President,
go ahead,
that was
please.
a follow-up.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of talk about testing. I just want to make sure we're clear, though, because we've been hearing from doctors who say, as of today, they still can't get patients tested who need a test. So as of today, can everyone who a doctor wants to have tested get tested? And if not, when?
Well,
When
that's
will
been
doctors
true for a
do it?
while, but I'll let Mike. Why don't you answer that, Mike, please?
Well, as the President said, and Dr. Fauci has articulated, the nature of our current system where the CDC has samples sent and tests are performed, or state labs perform tests, or in some cases university and hospital labs perform tests, is generally adequate for an infectious disease or for people getting a diagnostic work done. But given the sheer scale of this, the President tasked us with bringing together this extraordinary public and private partnership. Today, by some estimates, when you add all the labs together, and today the President made it possible for every state in the country and their state labs to authorize labs across their state to do coronavirus testing. We're estimating somewhere between 15 and 20,000 tests a day are able to be performed. But very soon, with the program that was announced today, Americans will be able to visit one of the sites closest to them, as described on the website, if they're symptomatic, if the questionnaire indicates it, be able to have a test there, and these incredible companies will process the test and they'll receive that information. But for now, the best advice that we can give for people is to speak to their doctor, as the President just said. And if the doctor indicates that physician, if it's not a university, hospital, or otherwise authorized lab, can contact the state lab. Again, every state lab in the country can perform tests today. But what the President charged us with when I was tasked to take over the White House Coronavirus Task Force was open up tests all across the country. The President said a few days ago that we made it clear that any American that wanted to get a test would be able clinically to get a test. Because I literally heard from the governor of Washington State who said the doctors in Washington State were saying that if you were only mildly symptomatic, they would not order a test. And fortunately, the President directed CDC to clarify that. Now, anyone in consultation with their physician, regardless of their symptoms, can request a test. And their doctors will contact those agencies, those labs in their state. But very soon, Americans will be able to go to these drive-in sites and be able to obtain and participate in a test. Dr. Birx, is there more to amplify that?
No, I think that's perfectly said. I think just to review once more time about the testing, with LabCorp and Quest, I think many of you have been to doctor's office and seen the little boxes outside. What they do is they deliver both the specimen collection piece, because remember, it's a nasal swab. It's not a tube of blood. So they've delivered that to doctors' offices and hospitals, and then they will arrange to pick that up. The important piece in this all is they've gone from a machine that may have a lower throughput to the potential to have automated extraction. I know you don't want all these details, but it's really key for the laboratory people. It's an automated extraction of the RNA that then runs in an automated way on the machine with no one touching it, and the result comes out at the other end. So sample to machine to results. That cuts out a lot of the manual pieces that were happening that were delaying the test results.
And so with that, what's the timeline like from when you're tested to when you get results? Like next week, what should people expect?
Well, with the prior testing, it was taking several days because the test is slower. We believe with this test, because of its throughput, that the testing can be from start, remember it has to transport, to the laboratory that will run it. And then we're hoping that all can be finished within 24 hours, which is very similar to other tests that you received today. These are not point-of-care tests. We are working on point-of-care tests, but we have to realize point-of-care tests take 6 months or more to develop. So we're not waiting for those. We're still diagnosing this on nucleic acid. So it's an antibody. This is actually the antigen, the actual virus in your nose that we're amplifying.
I think you have to remember, though, we're working very closely with states, and so you have a smaller form and more targeted form of government going in and doing it, like in New York, where the relationship is very good, like Gavin Newsom, where he made some very complimentary, that's California, he made some really complimentary comments the other day about how we're working together. We worked on the ship together, but we worked on a lot of other things together having to do with this. And we're really, the relationship that we have, I can't think of a bad relationship. We're helping them. We're funding them in some cases, depending on what it is you're talking about. And we're all working together very closely. So we've done really, I think, a tremendous job of teamwork with the different states. All right, one or two more, and if you have questions for these folks, does anybody have a question for the folks up here? Who has a question up here? You have? Okay, go ahead. If you have a question, go ahead.
Thank you. I have one for you as well.
I thought. I know
no, but
you
I do
asked.
have one for them because I haven't heard this
I was waiting
yet.
for that. Go ahead.
Because I haven't heard this yet.
Ask them first, please.
Yes, I will. Okay, with regards to the CEOs, can you please tell us when you expect to see items like hand sanitizer that have been going out of stock very quickly back on the shelves? There have been a lot of reports about that. And for you, Mr. President, could you talk about a potential bailout for the cruise industry? You had suggested that could happen. Is that something you're still looking at, and how much would that be?
Well, I didn't suggest that it could happen, but I can tell you it's an industry that was very badly impacted by what's going on with the virus. And it's a great industry. It's a very important industry, and we will be helping them, and we will be helping the airline industry if we have to, assuming we have to. So far, people haven't been asking, but if they should be asking, we want to make sure our airline is very strong. And then one day, all of a sudden, wasn't looking so good. Interestingly, I was talking to Doug, and the numbers they're doing from the retailing standpoint, I guess because of this, your business is like the opposite. All of you you've been selling a lot of stuff. Do you want to answer the question as to the hand sanitizers?
Sure. Yeah, specifically, the areas where we're seeing pressure in the supply chain are surface cleaners, cleaning supplies, paper goods in particular. Hand sanitizer is going to be very difficult to have 100% in stock on for some time. We're still replenishing it and shipping it, but as soon as it hits the stores, it's going. The same thing's true for the categories I just mentioned. So all the retailers will be working hand in hand with the suppliers to bring that to the market as fast as we can.
What is your advice, though, for Americans who are seeking those items? What is your advice? They're selling out online, they're selling out in the stores.
I think this team has given you other examples of what people can do to fight back against this virus, and you should look at the entire list.
Dr. Fauci,
Please.
speak to that. It'd be good.
I mean, obviously it sounds very simplistic, but wash your hands as often as you possibly can. And I know you're not always in a position to be able to wash your hands, but wash them as much as you can. If you don't have the alcohol wipes, try and get them. If you can't get them, just try as best as possible to do it. I mean, you got to do the best you can.
Alex, please.
Well, no, just general preparedness. You know, you want to wash your hands. You want to keep distance from people. And if you're around someone sick, keep away from them. This is basic public health. Now, these guys are selling a lot of toilet paper. I don't know. There seems to, Tony, do you need to give some guidance that toilet paper is not an effective protection against getting the coronavirus? They're selling out. But soap and water, hot water, soap, 20 seconds. That's how you do it.
Okay, one more. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, over here, behind you. Behind you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. You have a great team, of course.
That's true.
My
Thank
question is, Mr. President, are you happy from the Chinese response? What correctly really told you what really happened those days? And second, Prime Minister Modi or India have closed borders until April 15th, if you have spoken with the Prime Minister of India and if they have needed any help. And finally, sir, any message for the small businesses, because they are losing some businesses because of this? Thank you, sir.
Well, on small businesses, the Small Business Administration is now stacked with money to help them, and we're going to make the money readily available if they need it, small businesses. We had a great time in India. It was an incredible 2 days, and he's a great friend of mine, and he's a friend of his people because he was greeted incredibly warmly, as was I, in that stadium. It was an incredible event, and I loved being with him, so just say hello to him. But we talked about everything. We talked about far more than just borders. And as far as President Xi, likewise, he's a friend of mine. I believe that we are dealing in good faith. We just worked, as you know, and as I just said, we just worked an incredible deal, big deal, one of the biggest deals ever made of any kind. Big even by the standards of some of the people here, the deal with China. But I think that they want to get to the bottom of things also. We're working, our drug companies, our pharmaceutical companies are working very closely with China and with India, as you know, and with all over the world. And they're all over the world. These are magnificent companies that are very, very knowledgeable. And we're very lucky to have them, because I think you're going to come up with, whether it's therapeutic or whether it's just help in getting better, and then ultimately a vaccine, which takes a little bit longer because of the test periods and a couple of other reasons. You're going to have it very quickly because of the great knowledge, and they'll have it very quickly. They've made a tremendous amount of progress. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much.